The first order of business, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Buddy. May you rest in peace, my friend.
Amen.
Next order of business, acceptance of the October minutes. I believe you've all received a copy of those. And I'd like to have a motion to accept the October minutes as presented.
I move we accept the October minutes.
A motion's been made. Have a second.
Second.
Any need for discussion? Hearing no need for discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Are you able to give us a treasurer's report, my friend?
I can, as long as you can hear me.
And we can hear you.
Okay, so before I do that though, can you tell me who's in this meeting? Because I have absolutely no visibility to you guys right now.
Okay, there's James, there's James, Michael, Kevin, and Deborah. I don't know if there's anybody else in the background, James. Is anybody out there participating?
No, that's the list.
Okay,
We have everybody, we have all 6 of us.
that's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, treasurer's report, hold on one second. So our grant money, we still have $592.14 remaining in that. The donation account has $2,816.01.
Was that 860 or 16?
2816.01.
Thank you, thank you.
And we that does not include security system not to exceed $350, which I think we're going to talk about later tonight.
Yeah,
And then the budget account, I'm pretty much including all of the National Grid bills that I have, even though some of them may or may not have been processed.
okay,
But the available funds there are $1,277.27.
all right. All right, very good. So you've heard the treasurer's report. Have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
I move
Kevin?
we accept it.
Kevin's made the motion. Can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael has made the second. All in favor? Need for discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Very good. Thank you. Any noteworthy correspondence, Laura?
Not much. So we got the September financial reconciliation. I picked up today the September financial reconciliations. I think we all got through email the notification of Buddy's passing and the confirmation that his AgCom term would expire in 2022. We got the physical hard copy of that in the mail when I picked it up this afternoon.
Okay,
And there was a copy of, the National Grid bill for $11.18 for September, October, which I passed on to Carl already.
yeah,
And then the copy from Deb of the $54 enforcement submission for Spain. She just gave us a hard copy just in case we needed it for anything. Carl, I don't need it. If you need it, I'll
No,
file it with the treasurer.
yeah, I've signed off on it, so,
Yeah.
Deborah, you submitted that to the town accountant?
Yes, and I've already received the check.
Okay, very fine. Good.
Other than that, there was just some, I think the Berlin fiscal year 23 capital process is going to be talked about later. But
Yes.
all of the other stuff was already happened already. So including the farewell reception for Keith Galvin. So that's it.
Any
Plus the
note,
regular.
okay, any noteworthy emails?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, all right, very good. Anybody have any questions?
little.
All right, very fine, thank you. Moving on to old business. First item is the purchase of the security cameras. Where do we stand there, Mr. Wheeler?
The cameras arrived the other day, and I should be able to get them installed in the near future. November is a slow month, so
Okay, good.
a couple of weeks to play with it.
Right, and as long as the weather holds, that'll be good too. All
Yeah,
right,
we'll see what it does.
very fine, thank you. Next item, the reshingling of the community garden shed roof. So, given the current circumstances, I guess at this time we will table this subject. I was concerned relative to the availability of the existing funds of $592.14, as Laura has mentioned, that's in the grant. I had a discussion with the town administrator and as to whether, any possibility of the funds going away, or did we have to make a formal request to preserve the funds, as we probably won't get to this task at the earliest until next spring, given the time of year. She didn't think it would be a problem. She said she would look into it, and if there are any concerns, she would get back to me, which she did not do. So I'm assuming the funds are still available, and then we can plan on getting this task done this coming spring. Anybody have any concerns with that? Any recommendations or suggestions other than that? All right, very good. We'll leave it that way. Community garden fee schedules. I guess we were going to put this off a bit, table it until sometime later during the winter months. Is that where we stand on that, Deborah?
Well, what I was thinking was it was important to talk about it now, because the
Okay.
application goes out with the census.
Oh,
And
that's right.
if I remember correctly, we need to have the select board approve the changes. So I wanted to run a few things by the group and see what you
Okay.
all felt would work, and have at least the application in place for us for the next meeting, so that we could approve it or, fix it accordingly, and then forward it to the select board so that they could vote on it prior to the census. So my first question is to James. Does the census usually go out like mid-January?
Yeah, that's the time frame. Usually we'll start compiling all the literature for that in December, and try to get that off to the printer. But and so I'll check in with Eloise tomorrow, and I can get you a timeline on that.
Okay, so that if we can make a decision about it, and I can have it worked up for December, then we'd be able to submit it.
Yeah, it's if we have stuff by, well there'll be time after our next meeting.
Okay, all right. So that's what I would like to do, if the group will hear me out on what I've talked, researched and everything tonight. Okay?
Sure, go right ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I checked various community gardens in the area, and people gave me their applications with all the fees and everything. And our fees are very low compared to what other towns charge, as well as the size of the garden compared to the fees. So I didn't see it being a problem to increase the fees a little bit to defer the costs in the garden. And the other thing that let me just tell you about that part first, and then I'll tell you the next part. So
Deborah, can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Absolutely.
Do you happen to know, excuse me, do you happen to know if in those other gardens, if there's any town support by the way of taxpayer funds, or are they solely on the donation basis?
That is a great question. I
Okay.
can email these people back and
Okay.
ask that question of them.
Okay, I think it's important. I think it's important to know that. I think that would have a bearing on what adjustments we make, if any, in the fee structure, given the fact that we do get financial assistance from the town.
Okay, so assuming that they do get some kind of financial support from their town, let me write that real quick to my note to self to ask them about town support. Okay, so for example, Northborough, you get a 6x12 raised bed for $30. Marlborough, 20x10, $25. Carlisle, 25x30 is $15. Now they have some pretty good sized plots there. Hudson, you get a 4x8 bed for $20. So we charge 15 for a 20x20 and 10 for a 10x10. So our fees are quite low compared to what I just said for the size that you get. So I was looking at that and comparing it without what you had just said, raising the 20x20 from $15 to $25. And I also, we didn't offer, this year we only offered 20x20s and 10x10s, but in the past, our 10x10s were actually 10x20s. So I didn't know if we wanted to add that additional real estate so that we offered 3 sizes of plots, a 20x20, a 10x20, and a 10x10, because it's real easy to divide up the 20x20s into those different kinds of plots.
So just for clarity, what we're talking about as far as increasing the rates, this would be solely for out-of-town people?
No, this was for the in-town people.
Oh, the in-town people as well?
But that was the other thing I wanted to consider, was putting a surcharge on out-of-town people. So I didn't know if the board wanted to look at putting the fees in line with what was going on in other towns. Again, not knowing the answer to that question about whether it's subsidized by their towns. I would assume it is to some extent because it's on town property. So we could look at it both ways. We could keep it as they are for Berlin residents and increase fees for out of town. All the places I looked at, nobody else takes people from another town. So I didn't have any comparison for that. And when I was looking at the fees, I asked Laura to give me the amount of money that our budget puts towards the community garden. And apparently last year, our entire budget went to things that were going on in the community garden.
That's pretty much it. The budget is, in most cases, I won't say 100%, but for the most part, it has been dedicated to the community garden, with a few exceptions over the years.
Right. So
Deb, were
when
you
I was
asking for last year, or were you asking me for the current fiscal year?
I couldn't understand you, Laura.
Okay, I'm sorry. When I answered your question this morning, I was answering for fiscal 22, which is the current year budget. I didn't look at last year's. I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, because I just wanted a guideline, and I feel that
Okay.
over the last couple of years, the majority of the budget has gone for the garden. I can't
Absolutely.
really think of anything else that we've voted on in the last couple of years since the garden has been in existence. So I looked at it as I divided it into the number of plots, the amount of money that we spent or used. And I also looked at the number of gardeners to the amount of money that was spent. And it comes out somewhere between $35 and $45, depending on which divisor you decide to use. So if we look at the number of plots, then $45 per plot from the budget is used. If you look at the number of gardeners, because not every plot is a straight 20 by 20, then the amount drops down to like $35. So to me, I think it's important that if we are going to continue to take people from out of town into the garden when there are plots available, that they should be paying a portion of money in addition to their application to subsidize what the taxpayers in town are putting forward for the Berlin gardeners.
I would agree. I would agree.
Okay.
And
So I guess that's the other thing I need to know is what you think would be a fair amount per plot for an out-of-town gardener. But then again, the plot part becomes sticky because you can have a gardener who takes a 10 by 10 and you have a gardener who could take a 20 by 20. So it is a different amount. So I didn't know how to play the numbers on that.
so tell me again, if you would, what our 10 by 10 fees are and our 20 by 20 fees are.
Our current 20 by 20, and we also offer senior discounts.
Right.
Our current, get the, okay, so our current 20 by 20 fees are $15.
Okay.
And $10 for a 10 by 10 and $10 for an elevated bed. For seniors, the 20 by 20 plot is reduced to $10. That's in our latest application.
So I don't know, strictly talking for out-of-town participants, I would think the 2020 might go from 15 to 25, and perhaps the 10 by 10 goes to 20. And the same thing for the raised bed. And maybe no senior discounts.
Or the other option that I see in a lot of programs, when you're an out-of-towner, it's just a flat additional fee. So add $5 or add $10 to
Yeah,
whatever.
you could, yeah. You could-
And that just makes it a lot cleaner when
Yeah.
I do the application.
Yeah, how we get there, you know, whatever's easiest is easiest, long as the total's there.
Okay, so.
I mean, jump in, folks, if you have some other thoughts on the matter, but that's just off the top of my head, looking at the numbers. So do you want to take the information that we have so far, Deborah, and have discussed and then present it again in December?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and I would like to have something worked up, and I want to clean this application up to make it a little bit less wordy, because what I found, especially this year, is people do not read anything.
I would agree.
And I ran into a lot of trouble with that. And as my niece aptly put it, I can't believe there's so much drama in a community garden. And I thought that was perfect. It sums up my summer perfectly. So, all right, I will ask that question. I'll send an email out to the.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important that we understand that.
Find out about that and then come back with a proposal with an application for the next meeting so that we can make a decision about it.
Very fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to all of that.
Yeah, no. Okay, moving on to the next item, if we can, the security light replacement. We have a couple of defective lights down there. Again, that was tied in hand with the shingling of the roof, so I think we'll table that at the moment as well and get through the winter months and address it this spring. The next item is I never know how to say this, MII, M Roman numeral 2A, I don't know what it is, the Health Benefit Trust Wellness Grant Application. So that application is due on the 2nd of February. We talked about this at the last meeting. Based on a number of town participants we have here, we can go for something as high as $5,000 for a grant request. And Deborah and I are going to be working on that. I haven't done anything on it, trying to get my farm put to bed while we have this nice weather. So once the weather changes, I'll be focusing on that. I don't know if you have anything to contribute, Deborah, at this moment.
No,
Grant
I've just
application.
been writing down some ideas of the different things that we might request.
Okay, very fine. All right, does anybody have any questions on that subject? All right, very good, moving on. The Community Preservation Act Committee, the deer fencing pre-application. So that was submitted. We used a quote from Arrow Fencing in that application, which was $36,035. And I have down and under new business, I'll jump down there for a minute. We scheduled a meeting with a representative from Arrow Fencing at the community garden. Deborah and I were both going to attend. I had to bow out last minute because I sprained my knee and ended up getting couple of shots of cortisone in my knees to get back on track here. So I wasn't able to attend, but Deborah did attend. And as a result of that meeting and having the first site visit by that representative, and also indicating that it would be good to have a second 8-foot fencing, 8-foot gate, I meant to say. They have submitted to us a more detailed estimate, including a plot plan layout. Let me just see if I can find that here quickly. There it is. You probably can't see this, so I'll hold it up. Okay, nice blank piece of paper, right, folks? You can't see anything on it. Okay, anyways, it's a plot plan. Over on one section, detailed plot plan to scale and more descriptions as to what they're going to do exactly, okay? And including the second 8-foot gate and a new price of $38,130. So
Can you repeat, please?
$38,130. You got it? Okay.
Yep.
So this process, as I understand it, with respect to this grant situation, is it's a two-step process. We have fulfilled the first step by submitting our pre-application. To the best of my knowledge, at this present time, the Preservation Act Committee hasn't taken any action on it specifically. It will be on their forthcoming schedule. So once we know that pre-application has been accepted, the next aspect of it would be to submit a final application, if you will, at which time I would include this new figure and an explanation as to the small amount of growth associated with the quote. And if that's accepted, the next step would be to go to town meeting with it. Again, remember, the funds are already there. We're not asking people to raise and appropriate. The funds are already there. We'd be just asking if the town meeting permission to spend the money that's already there. And then we would have to go out to get quotes, formal quotes, due to the size of the money. It's over $10,000. So the final number is yet to be seen. And so that's the approach we're taking with this at the moment. Anybody have any questions or concerns with that approach?
Did he?
All right,
put
very good.
in, Carl, I have a question.
Okay.
Did he put in for the additional single entry gate that we might want to consider putting along the front besides the one that goes into the handicap area?
I believe so, but I'm not certain. I haven't had an opportunity, if we get to the next round to submit the final application, I will be, well before that, I'll be going over this quote with this gentleman, Scott, that gave it to us. But I believe it's in there. Did you not get a copy of this?
No.
Oh, I apologize. He addressed it to both you and I just assumed that he forwarded you a copy. I will send you a copy of that. Apologize for that.
When did you get it?
Okay, this is dated the 5th of November.
Okay, yeah, I definitely didn't get it.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's an oversight on my part, and I will forward that to you in the morning.
Okay,
But
that's
I think it's in there, and the reason I say that is after I subtracted, or I should say, after I added the amount for the double gate, which is clear in his notes, I was still $883 short. So that's probably for that gate.
okay.
Okay. So I will forward this to you, and I will look more closely at it myself to see if that gate is in there. So I think it is. We'll look at it more closely. All right. Any questions on that? All right, very good. So the next subject is the removal of the solar panels. I believe they're still on the shed down there. There's certainly no sense of urgency at this time, given that we won't be putting the new roof on until the spring. The highway department is spread very thin these days with personnel issues that they've lost quite a few people. So we'll just put that on the back burner as well and roll it up with the reshingling of the roof. Tilling of the community garden and ryegrass seed application. We've taken a different approach this year. Deborah, perhaps you want to explain what we've done there with respect to that?
Yes, at the end of the season, we asked everybody to make sure that they returned the plots exactly as they found them, and most of the gardeners turned the soil so it was rough on the top, and anything that wasn't rough, we went in and knocked around a bit, either tilling it or, taking a cultivator in to rough up the soil, and we hand did all the rye seed. So it's been totally done. James, we only used one bag, so I'm going to be bringing one bag back to you so that you can have it. James, the farm donated the 2 bags to us, so everybody knows that.
Thank you, James.
Wanted to make sure so we could thank him and his dad. So we did just need one. So I will bring that other one back to you. It hasn't been opened. And so I'm just glad to hear we're going to get some good rain on Friday, and everything should be good. It needs a good rain to.
Right.
We haven't had any since we did it last week.
So this approach preserves all the great pathways that have been put into place this past season by Deborah and crew with the wood chips and everything, cardboard underneath it and things of that nature. So that won't have to be redone in the springtime. An observation I'd like to make: if we continue with this approach, it's going to have a pretty significant impact on our upcoming budgets in the way of less money. So if this works out, we'll have to reflect that in our next fiscal year budget activity, which will be coming up. I guess the activity usually starts in January sometime or thereabouts. And the other thing is Laura, could we send a formal thank you letter to Cordelia's Farm for donating of the ryegrass?
Sure. Thanks, James.
It's our pleasure.
I think we ought to do it formally.
I was joking, Carl.
I know. I know.
At
I
least
know.
James is laughing at my little joke.
Okay, moving on. Water line drainage at the community garden, that has been done. It was done by the highway department. So they've taken care of that. So that's a good thing.
The faucets were removed and I put the plugs in.
Okay, very good. Under the category of new business, is there anything additional you'd like to say, Deborah, with respect to the community garden?
Pretty much everything's set for the winter. We have a small group that's doing the garlic this year. We chose a bed within the garden to use, and we made a smaller group this year because last year we had too many people involved and it just didn't work out. So we chose to just ask Berlin residents to join it. And so it's all planted and going to be taken care of by the small group of 7 people instead of the other group where we had 11 or 12. There's just a couple of very small things that need to be to be done that I'll take care of this week. And that's it. We're almost all set.
Okay, very good.
We're still
good.
farming in some of the raised beds. We've moved a lot of the crops that can still grow, like Brussels sprouts and kale and stuff like that, to the raised beds. And
If this weather continues, you can probably put some tomato plants in.
yeah, you got that right.
All right, very good. Anybody have any questions? All right, moving on. For the record, I received, as Laura mentioned, the National Grid bill for $11.18. I've signed off on that, and I have forwarded it to our town accountant for payment. Next item, sponsoring of a cultural council grant for gardening educational series. Deborah, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I will say I contacted the person. She was all, yes, great. I'd love to do it. I told her what we wanted to do. I said, we got to move on this. Let's do it. And I never heard back from her. So I guess we'll wait till next year. The grant's shut down. So we can't do it. But yeah, she was all gung ho, ready to do it. And then radio silence.
Okay, that makes it easy.
Yes.
I'm fortunate, but if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. All right, I've already mentioned in the next bullet item, the meeting that was held on November 3rd with the Arrow Fence representative. I hope to be able to, on the next item, I hope to be able to have the draft of our annual report available for our December meeting. I'll disseminate it first so we can all review it, comment on it. Hopefully that will get done later on sometime this month on some rainy days or perhaps snowy days. Next item, the Smithsonian exhibit grant. You may recall that we were asked by the selectmen to provide a write-up for a grant that was going to be awarded to various towns in Massachusetts by the Smithsonian Institute. We did receive an email from the select board indicating that our application was not successful. I guess the only possibility is if one other town who may have received the grant decides to bow out. But short of that, I think it's a dead issue at the moment. Next item, FY23 capital expenditures. The reason I put this in, you may recall probably 2 months back now. I don't remember the exact date, but we got a request from the town administrator asking if we had any FY23 capital expenditures being defined as something that's worth $10,000 or more and have had a life of 5 years or more. And we responded in the negative saying we didn't have any, which was an accurate statement at the time. Since then, we did submit our pre-application for the fencing down at the community garden for $36,000 and change at the time. So I sent her an email saying, do I put this in the FY23 capital expenditure report now? Or do I wait to see if our final application gets approved? I haven't heard back. So at the moment, I'm not doing anything. I put her on notice. I felt we had to tell her that, you know, since we initially made the submission, which I explained at the time, we didn't have any foreseen capital expenditures, but that's now a possibility. So I haven't heard back, but we may have to file it at some point if
Carl?
the grant goes forward. Yes. Yes, Deborah.
It's Laura. So the deadline to submit fiscal year 23 capital expenditures was
Sorry.
November 1st. right.
Laura, sorry, you're coming through. You're coming through gobbled.
I know, I'm sorry.
I can't make. Okay, that's better.
The deadline for that submission was November 1st.
Yes, and I sent my email in prior to that.
Okay, just saying. I think it's,
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. No, that's a good point. You know, you're right. We sent in our first notification prior to the deadline. And then knowing that the deadline was coming up, I sent in the email. So I guess we don't have to worry about reporting it at this point. And we'll see where we end up with the grant. But thank you. That's a good point.
Hey, Priscilla,
Okay. Little background music here to entertain us.
can I call you back in about 5 minutes? I'm at a meeting. Okay, bye-bye.
So that's it for the formal agenda, folks. You all have any comments, questions, concerns, complaints? Now's the time. Hearing nothing. Have a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Kevin's made the motion. Somebody second it?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Yay.
All right.
All right, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you, James, for hosting it. Appreciate it.